Hey everybody, it's Mark again. And there's a guy in the group that is having an issue with his bird coming out early before it cuckoos or not at all. Well, I've got issues with this clock, so I'm going to go ahead and fix it. The count wheel is not catching properly, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this. The reason why the count wheel is, why the clock is cuckooing more than it should, this pin right here, I'm going to touch it with my fingers. This pin right here is what you push to make the bird go out the door. It has a spring on it. The purpose behind that spring is twofold. One, to bring the bird back inside, and two, to push this lever right here that I'm pushing with my finger right now, which is all part of this lever that goes into the count wheel. It's designed to push it down. And when you push it down, it will help stop the clock from continuing to cuckoo. Some clocks have a spring, an extra spring on them that goes from the front plate to the rear plate. Her makes them that way. And that way the lever pushes down into the count wheel. That way it stops cuckooing. Now, I'm going to take this movement out. I have to take this movement out to fix it, but I want to show you this lever right here that I'm pushing on. It controls the bird going out. Okay? So if your bird is coming out when the clock goes into warning, when the clock goes into warning, this lever right here moves just a little bit so the third wheel warning pin can go underneath it. And when it moves just a little bit, it is hitting this inside lever, which pushes your bird out. So what you have to do is bend this outside lever out, away from it. And if you are bending this lever, it could be loose on the shaft. And so I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to take this movement out, and I'm going to explain this even further. By the way, this clock, in accordance with this catalog, was made around 1904. Now, this is a GK movement, all right? This movement is made by... GK never did make clocks, okay? They bought and sold clocks. This clock has got 8 nuts on it, 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom. That way you could take and work on the time side or work on the strike side. But it was made in around 1904. I don't have this piece right here, and I don't have the topper for it. But if you look really closely, there's nails where the topper would have went. I bought this clock off of Shop Goodwill. So anyway, get back to at hand. This bird post has got this wire right here on it. This lever controls this bird post. If your bird is coming out too soon, it's because this wire is too close to this wire. And I'm going to fix this spring situation, and then we will talk about everything else. This movement just happens to have one of those springs wires that I was telling you about that pushes down on the count wheel. It is smashed on the end, and it's pulled through, and it has to push down on the count wheel. So I put a lot of pressure on when I'm doing a function test, and that way I know it's going to operate when I put it back together. This wire right here is tripped by one of the two levers, the two pins that are on the minute arbor. This wire right here, and I'm going to lift up and down on that wire. You see the wire that is inside the clock? There's a wire right here that is connected to this rod, this shaft right here that is connected to this wire right here. When this lifts up, that is what starts your clock to cuckoo. Currently, this third wheel warning pin is hitting the end of this brass lever. This brass lever is on this shaft right here. That this is the wire that you touch when you open up the door. If your clock is cuckooing, let's say on the half hour, and it should be cuckooing on the hour, you push this lever, which in turn lifts this lever out of the count wheel. And when there is pressure on it, when I push this wire, it allows that third wheel with warning pin to go underneath, and it goes into warning. I don't know if I could show you. On this particular movement, that wire that goes around the second wheel goes straight down. I'm going to take the count wheel off so I can show you. You know, I do these videos and I do these videos and I explain, and people still have problems. So, you know, I'm trying to help people out. When I lift up this wire in front, you should be able to see this wire here that goes around the second wheel. When that is lifted up, the third wheel warning pin catches that wire so it doesn't cuckoo until this wire drops. If you mess with this wire, you need to hold a pair of pliers right here when you bend this wire. Because if you don't, you are bending the wire that goes around the second wheel. If your bird is going out the door too early, when this clock goes into warning, this is when it goes into warnings. Do you see this wire? It's touching the bird wire. You see the bird? It is moving. I don't have it adjusted enough. The bird would not go outside the door because I don't have it adjusted enough. So in order to adjust it to go outside the door, you would take a pair of pliers, or if you have these wire benders, you're going to want to hold this up here and then using your thumb push down on this and then look at it again. It's still not adjusted enough, so I'm going to bend it some more. It won't go out the door the way it is. So I bent it some more. You see how flush it is? I might have bent it too much. And so I'm going to rotate the hand some more. And this bird, I would have to put it in the case, but if it's not adjusted enough, then you would hold and bend this wire some more. The outside wire. I think I got it bent too much. The bird is going to go out. But this is the wire that you adjust. This outside wire here. And sometimes it takes a while to adjust it. And I can see right now that this wire here, the inside wire, is bent wrong. So I'm going to straighten it up. And I might end up breaking it. And I need to replace the spring. I don't like it. So I'll come back to you after I replace the spring. This thing is 130 years old. This spring is not, it's brittle. Every time I pull on it, I break it. So I'm going to put some different wire on it. And I don't have the proper wire for it, but I have wire that will work. And by the way, make sure that you pay attention when you take these brackets off and when you unwrap the wire. Because if you wrap it in the opposite direction, instead of the clock retrieving inside the case, it will retrieve outside the case when it's done cuckooing. So here I am unwinding it going clockwise. So I need to wind it going counterclockwise. You also want to verify that this wire that comes through the post on both the bird post and the post on the on this lever right here is not loose, because you could sit here be adjusting it all day long, and if it's loose in the post, you're wasting your time. If you break it, it's easy to replace this. All you have to do is take the old wire out, find a wire that is the same size and brittleness, thickness, stiffness, flat one side of it, about a quarter of an inch or so. Put the round section into the hole and pull it until that flat section goes into the hole. You might have to put a daub of solder or super glue or whatever, but for the most part, when you flatten this, it holds. And as you can see, or you should be able to see, that this wire is not soldered. It is flat from this side of the wire to this side of the wire, and then they pinged, and they put like a nail head on the end of it. So if you do it properly, you don't have to solder it or put glue on it. It doesn't hurt. Now you might have to adjust these legs, these brackets, to get the desired spring action that you want. But if you watch my other videos, I always like pushing down on it to see if the weight of the cuckoo is going to come back. If it works upside down, you know it's going to work right side up. Now, this will need to be adjusted more, because when I put it into the case, because the wire is what holds the bird from going all the way back. Okay, so again, the third wheel warning pin hits the end of this brass lever. There's a wire that goes over the second wheel. Normally it has a leg, an extra piece that comes straight out after it's got that hump, but in this case they made it straight down. And again, the that loop, hopefully you could see it, that wire, and I'm going to move it up and down. You should be able to see that wire. That wire is what stops the third wheel warning pin when it's in warning. If your cuckoo is bouncing in and out of the door while it's cuckooing, it's because this lever right here has got space between the end of the lever and the count wheel. It has to ride on the count wheel. It's hard to work on this one because the wheel is so far up in there. You see how it doesn't have any space between the end of this lever that goes into the count wheel and the count wheel itself? And that means that the bird is not going to bounce as it cuckoos. Now I have a weight and a chain set up, and I have the minute hand on. Now I want you to watch the fly, and I want you to watch the bird. It's going to go into warning about 5 minutes till the hour. Fly moved. Again, the wire will be holding that bird from going back too far. Now I want you to look at this wire. This is the wire that you touch if your cuckoo is off. You open up the door and you touch this wire. This wire that you touch is what touches this inside wire, and the bird goes out. The inside wire, the one that the bird has, the one that pushes the bird out, that the wire that is attached to the bird post, has to be on the inside of this wire here that comes down. If it's on the outside of that wire, if this wire is on the outside of the wire, your cuckoo will continue to run, because remember I told you that this spring serves two purposes. It brings the bird back in the clock, and it helps push the lever into that count wheel. So this lever right here that I'm touching, that I'm not touching this wire. This is the wire that you trip to make it all cuckoo. I'm touching the inside wire that makes the bird go out. That's the wire that is attached to the bird post, inside wire. If your bird is going out too soon at 5 minutes before it cuckoos, it's because this wire, the outside wire, is too close to the inside wire, and when it goes into warning, it pushes on that wire. Now I want you to watch the bird. It should move a little bit when it goes into warning. I don't have the outside wire too close to the inside wire. And I'm going to make it that way. That way you could see when it goes into warning, it will push the bird outside. Now I don't want to screw up my clock, but I do have it adjusted some. So watch the bird move when the fan moves, when it goes into warning. See, now the bird is moving. It moved a little bit. Okay, so if you got this lever too close to the bird lever, it's going to push the bird outside when it goes into warning. I'm going to recap a little bit, and then I'm going to put this movement back into the case. If your cuckoo on a count wheel clock is not shutting off all the time, it's because this spring that retrieves the bird back into the case serves two functions. It retrieves the bird back into the case, and it pushes this lever into the count. Again, on this movement, I just happen to have another spring that goes from the front of the case to the rear of the case that is pushing on the count wheel. But if your clock skips cuckooing several times, it's because the spring is not pushing the lever into the count wheel. it also could be that when you put the clock back together, the brass lever that goes into the second wheel cam Pac-Man has to go into the Pac-Man at the same time the third wheel warning pin is hitting on the end of that brass lever, and I showed that to you several times in this video. If your clock bird is cuckooing, is going out the door too early, it goes out the door in warning, that's because this wire that I'm pushing to make the bird go outside, the wire that is part of the bird post, this is the bird post, is too close to this lever, this wire here, that you trip to manually get the clock caught up with the right cuckoos. Here I have to adjust my count wheel because it cuckooed too many times on the inside slot. See, it did it 3 times here. And that's because this lever here needs to be adjusted. So, stand by. If your cuckoo is bouncing as it cuckoos, like this, it's because this lever that comes out of the count wheel has got space between it and the count wheel. You need to push it down some, just a little bit. The end of this lever is not flat. I don't want to break this lever. That's something else. You have to determine whether or not you can live with issues. The more you bend wires back and forth, the more susceptible they are to breaking. So the bird bounces a little bit. I'm okay with that. It shuts off when it's supposed to. And so I'm okay with that. So again, you have to determine for yourself how much tweaking do you want to do. I've broken some of these wires before. I've broken hammer wires. I've broken low note lift levers. I've broken high note lift levers. I've broken the levers, the wire that is right here. You know, I've broken several of these wires, and you have to determine what you want to live with. So now I'm going to take this off the stand so I can show you one more thing, and then we're going to put it back in the case. While you have the movement out of the case, you might as well do this. Get a marker. Put a line on both this intermediate wheel and the inside outer wheel. This wheel right here. I'm going to take this hand off. I'm going to put pressure on the great wheel for the time side, and I want to see that line move. Because if it doesn't move, it means your hands are not going to move. As you can see, that line is moving. So that means my hands are going to move. If that line wasn't moving, then you don't have enough tension on this clutch. It's called a clutch assembly, but I always call it a compression washer. It's either a 2-prong or a 3-prong washer underneath this intermediate wheel that you have to put more pressure on. If the hands drop as you turn them around, if the minute hand drops as you turn the minute hand around, there's not enough pressure on this washer. If it's hard to turn this minute hand around, you got 2 issues. One, this wire right here that has, let me get a piece of paper. I already drew this on another video. This is that wire, okay? It's either curved or it's squared and it comes down. It could go like this, where it's, that's a bad drawing. It comes out, it comes down, and then it has this wire right here. This wire right here, or this piece right here, is what hits those one of two pins on the hour-minute arbor. If that is bent wrong, and you try to turn the hands, it will put this in a bind with the levers underneath the pin. It will put the pin will get in a bind with this wheel if it's bent wrong. If it's got too much of an angle on it, or this might not be correct. It might have to come in, or it might have to come out. Whatever you do to this wire right here, you are affecting that wire that goes around that second wheel that I told you about. So that's why you have to hold this right here before you bend the wire that you're wanting to adjust. Hold it right here and bend over here somewhere. In other words, if you have a set of wire benders, put a wire bender right here, and then with your fingers or another wire bender, I wish I had another person sometimes. With your fingers or another wire bender or a pair of pliers, bend this wire with that other tool. I don't want to bend it. I might have to here in a second. That has nothing to do with your cuckoo bird coming out too early. If you have antique hands, most of these clocks have got square hole minute hands because there's a square hole shaft. If your hand is not straight up and down when this wire drops, see there, it's probably a minute after. I need to close this to get it, and just a little bit to get the hand straight up and down. So, again, how perfect do you want to be? So I'm going to close it off camera so I can see what I'm doing, and then we'll get back. I told you wrong. Closing it makes it go past the hour even more. So I have to open it. I close this wire. I need to open that wire. So I'm going to do that off camera. And it only takes small increments. So I got the hand adjusted better. As you can see, it drops right when the hand is straight up and down. But remember, I told you, whatever you do to this wire, it affects the wire back here. So you have to do another function test to make sure that A, that this lever is coming out of the count wheel when you turn the hands, and B, that it's shutting up. You see, when I turn the hands, it's not allowing that lever to come out of the count wheel. So that means that I have to adjust this wire here. It's hard to show all this stuff with the thing together, and I'm not going to take it apart. And all these clocks are made differently. But there's a pin on this brass lever right here that comes out of the count wheel. That wire that wraps around the second wheel, that's connected to this, lifts up and it hits that pin. You might be able to see that pin right here. And so you have to, and right now there's space between, there's a lot of space between that wire that goes around the second wheel and that pin. So I'm going to see if I can lift that wire up that goes around the second wheel so it catches that pin, because it has to catch that pin in order to lift this lever out of the system. This is not connected to this. This is connected to that wire that goes around the second wheel, and then this has got a pin. In some cases, it's a wire. If you watch my video on my Alexander Plea clock, it's a wire. And so I'm going to see if I could bend it to get, and all because I'm showing y'all what to look for if your clock's not working properly. So now when I turn the hands, it functions. This wire came off. I need to put it back on. Okay. And again, every time you adjust one of these wires on the rear, it affects part of the other system. So now I want to see where my hand is when that wire drops. It is still good. So I'm okay with that. So now I need to put this back into the case and have to connect this wire up to the wire on the door to go to the next step. Okay, the movement is in. You see how far away the bird is from the door itself? So I need to connect the wire. It's away from the door quite a bit. Imagine if your wire is too long, that when the clock goes into warning, that it will push the door open. So make sure that your wire isn't too long. Shoot. The door only needs to open about 3/4 of the way. And you have to understand, these are antique clocks. They're 100+ years old, and so in this case I got to tilt the bird down some because his nose is hitting the roof line of the door. And the older clocks like this have removable doors. The hinges are B's versus U's. Let me tilt the bird down. Stand by. Again, this is an antique clock. How picky you want to be, it's up to you. The brass screw for this mount is long gone. I don't know where it's at. I've got a regular metal screw in it. I just got through breaking the tongue for the bird. And so, helping people out, fixing their clocks, I sometimes break mine. So people should be happy that I go above and beyond doing what I do. Again, this outside wire pushes on that inside wire. The inside wire is what opens that door. If your bird is coming out early before it cuckoos, it's because you got the outside wire too close to the inside wire, and when it goes into warning, it hits the inside wire. I'm going to have to adjust my outside wire, because currently the bird is not going outside the door. So I have to adjust it. I'm going to hold the pliers up here and push the bottom with my finger. And then I'm going to trip it again to see, and this takes a while. It's not done first time. So the door's opening, and the bird's not coming out too much. So again, I'm going to adjust this wire some. If you adjust it too much, when you push on it, it won't trip. My inside wire has came loose and adjusting everything, so it's not shutting the cuckoo off. So I need to bend my inside wire so it puts more tension on that lever that goes into the count wheel. This is 3 o'clock right here. 1, 2. I need to put a weight on it. This is 4 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4. So anyway, I hope this helps. I need to put all the bellows back together in the hands and everything else. But if your cuckoo is going out early on a count wheel system, it's because the outside wire is too close to the inside wire, or it is possible that the wire that you have going to the door is way too long. This bird will not come out of the door that much because of that screw that I talked about, and I'm not going to adjust it anymore. I'm happy with that. It's an antique clock. It's 100 plus years old. If I was 100 plus years old and I halfway function, I would be happy. This is a Herbert Hur 1950s cuckoo quail clock. Lever that makes the bird go out. Lever that you touch that to adjust that makes the lever come out of the count wheel, and that pushes the bird out. It has to be bent enough to push the bird out, but not too much that it needs a little bit of gap in it in most cases. That way the the bird won't go out when the clock goes into warning. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. This is for the quail side. It has a piece of metal here. That piece of metal is different from everything else I talked about in this video. I'm trying to find it. There it is. There's that wire on the quail side, the same way on the cuckoo side as I told you about, that in this case, because it's for the quail, it goes underneath the third wheel with warning pin. It's curved, so when the clock goes into warning, that curved part stops the third wheel with warning pin from continuing. But again, it's all, this affects that wire, this affects this lever that goes into the count wheel. That brass lever has to go into the cam on the second wheel. It's the same thing. It's the same system as what I've been talking about. Hope it helps. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. May God bless. I got to get to the store. I got a birthday party tomorrow. I might show this clock up and running as the last part of this video. It depends on how I feel when I get back. And all the adjusting I had to do with this Alexander Flieg clock, trying to get it to stay in beat, ticking and stuff. The gong okay, I got it all back together, it's up and running. Now again, the cuckoo is not going to come out the door because the brass screw is missing and I don't have a proper screw to adjust him in the right place. And I don't want to break him. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave me some comments. May God bless each and every one of you.